And we are back. Welcome to Blazehackman Vlogcast number 2. It's been a bit of time since I did installment 1 and I've been thinking about it. So long, in fact, that I had a couple of surfs between then. And I put a blog here. So if I am screaming through this blog, podcast, whatever you want to call it, please forgive me. But I've changed the name to Blazehackman Vlog number 2. It was called Masterclass. Didn't feel entirely comfortable with that because I think if you get invited, like Kevin Spacey, to the Masterclass online mastery series, or a famous screenwriter or a singer, then you can label yourself as a master. Not that I'm not a master, but I just feel more comfortable if someone else gives you that title. So I've actually taken measures to export this as well to a podcast. So if you're listening on the podcast, there's a link below the YouTube, and it'll be in the description on the sites like Facebook where I put this. But you can download it, stick it in your car, in your ear, somewhere, have a listen to it on the road, and I'll do my best to remember to describe the pictures that I'm seeing in my mind, because we're going to be referring to stuff on YouTube as well while I'm doing this. So continuing on from where we left off, just to tell you exactly what this is about, this is a creativity vlog, and I guess with YouTube, it's something I've been interested in exploring for a long time. I've been posting videos for a long time, but I'm kind of narrowing down exactly what I like to do, what I think I'm good at, and I think that this kind of film creation, weird idea thing, it's what I do. It's a kind of pastiche of all the things that I've knowledge I've acquired over the years, a bit of acting, a bit of voiceover, a bit of writing, a bit of making my own projects, putting together and coming up with a theory of how I do things. And in particular in relation to my project Painted State, which is a story about the apocalypse and how people survive the apocalypse, and they find this paint they put on their faces to survive in a post-apocalyptic world, and they discover that in fact the paint is a weapon. So it's an idea I came up with myself. I've got a bunch of test scenes that I directed myself, and I'm pitching this. I mean, ultimately this is something that started out as a feature film, third draft, but it is now turning into maybe a 6-part series on Netflix. I mean, we all love to do that, wouldn't we? This is part of the pitch process. And I'm pitching my aesthetic and the way I do things by doing this. So bear with me, because I'm going to skip around. I guess the project encapsulates, kind of like a pyramid. It's a sharp edge of all the things that I've been interested in creatively over my life, and all my theories all coming together. So I'm going to skip in and out of talk about the project for a while. I might talk about something completely different, and how I feel about that creatively and how it informs me. So let's keep going with this. What we're doing is we've got the scenes, we've cut them sequentially, the stuff that I've shot, I'm playing it back sequentially. Haven't shot all the scenes in the draft screenplay, but I plan to fill in the blanks with like an audio book in a US accent. Hopefully I've just got to sit down, discipline myself, and get that done, deliver those in installments as well. But let's just walk through these scenes. So you can see here is a baseball bat. So one of the films that I found really inspirational around about the same time that I discovered the film Alien, 1979, 1980, kind of showing my age there, was a film called Warriors. And it's just an amazing film. I actually don't agree with some of the things they did with the film, but in terms of the gangs, because you've got one New York gang and they're trying to get to Coney Island, and the themes, if you watch the making of Warriors, you think, it's just a gang film set in New York, the early 80s, but it actually, the story and that myth goes back to the Greek and Roman mythology and the old wars, and those themes permeate through that film. And so that they had one gang called the Baseball Furies, but the thing I didn't like about the gangs, which are kind of, it was a heightened experience in some ways, that whole performance in Warriors. But all the gangs were so homogenous, they were so organized. It was just a bit too camp. It was too organized. Everyone would look exactly the same, but they'd have the same theme. You could say that about Hell's Angels, but there was just something just too perfect about the gangs in the Warriors. They could have grunged them up a bit. But the one gang I really liked was the Baseball Furies. And if you look at the guy that's swinging the baseball bat in Baseball Furies, then he's like that lead gang member. And the design for my character in this X derives from that character. And this is a bit of a tribute. Having this baseball bat, just like the Baseball Furies, which I borrowed from a mate of mine who teaches drama at one of the eastern suburbs schools, Ian McPhee, IMAC, who was a couple of years in front of me in Nepean. It is very, very nice of him to lend me this baseball bat. Now, this predates season 6 of The Walking Dead. I just want you to know that, in case you think I'm kind of trying to reference Negan's weapon there. But yeah, the old baseball bat, I wouldn't want to be hit by one. There's a certain aura of menace to them. But my character in this world is surviving, and so he's lurking around with one. This scene was all shot in Marrickville. It was shot on a 5D, and I used some of the default filters in Final Cut Pro 10. And some of those filters are actually better than you'll find in Magic Bullet or any of the fancier grading programs. And my whole approach with grading was to look at the frame and then try a bunch of filters. I didn't right-click and analyze it on the spectrometer and see if all the blacks were crushed properly. I just looked at it and thought, yeah, does that look good? Yeah, it looks good to me. That's the look I like. If you look at the film Seven by David Fincher, that's the whole vibe, like a very bleak cartoon. And in a lot of the grading I've done, the colors are sort of contrasting. Okay, now you want to keep watching, but do be prepared, because I might stop and just look at a baseball bat and go, wow, that's exciting. This is what I think about that. Think of it as long format. Oops, better turn that down. Here's my character waking up and peeling off the sheets, and then getting up, grabbing the baseball bat. Oh, there's a bit of nice lens flare there. And the lens flare I did in post in Premiere Pro Creative Cloud. I think it looks nice. We sit down, okay, and you get a shot of my back there, and you can see that I'm all really busted up by the environment and got radiation scarring. Okay, so if you look carefully at this frame, you can see our first AD and our second AD in this shot. So on the left is my mate Michael Albasha, who I met on another film. I love this guy. He's a lot of fun, and he became part of the on-screen talent in Broken Hill when we shot. Just had this character grew over time. I think things should grow organically when you're creating stuff. And so I came up with this idea of Trash Clown, of this insane clown. Everyone thinks he's mad, but he kind of ends up as a bit of the genius of the film. And so you've got references to Blade Runner in this film, where the scene where Deckard goes into this big warehouse and he's being chased by Roy Batty, and you've got replicants lurking around, and then Pris is in Blade Runner is pretending to be a doll under the plastic sheet. So it's a bit of an ode to that. And then on the right, you've got my mate Barry Tucker, who I've known for a long time. Did a show with him at the New Theatre in Newtown many years ago. And we've done a couple of projects since then. And Baz was the AD, and there's also this character. I never went out to write something that was kind of funny, but naturally I like bleak stuff, but I like dark humor. And so this guy that Barry plays is called Corgi Organs, and he's the most annoying motivational speaker you'll ever find. And he tries to give people motivation at the worst possible time in their life, like if they had a limb taken off, or they're feeling depressed and suicidal. He'll just come in with some rote motivational comment that he read on a meme, thinking that he's well appreciated, but not really. So in this shot, Barry's managing to stay very still, but Michael not as still. and I really had to cut my in and out points around here because he kept on blinking. Another thing about this shot is that if you look at it in the wide, it's in the middle there's no other way to put this. It's a sex doll, and this is where improvisation, lack of money, kind of gets put into the scene. So I had another scene written, we shot on the same night, and it had a stunt in it, and I didn't want the actor to get hurt, so I said, I'll fill in and do the stunt for you. And originally it was written outside, so I just molded the script to suit what we had at the time, because these are test scenes. Remember that this is not the lockdown product. This is to go to someone and say, what do you think about this crazy idea? Mad Max with clowns. Here's a bunch of test scenes. And just remember, it's not actually a clown film, and it's not really related to Mad Max. I think I said that in the previous vlog. Anyway, so I did this stunt, and to cushion the blow, I found that in the warehouse I was using, which belongs to Craig Anderson, and Craig had been doing this other weird shoot, and he and Doug Bain had all these uninflated sex dolls, like 20 of them just lying on the floor. So I spent few hours by myself inflating them, arranging them, so I could make a cushion for myself to land on. And it was all arranged in a rack. And you can see Michael and Barry standing in the rack. And then later on, I crashed through that wall of dolls and injure myself. But that's another story. I'm sure we'll get to that at another point. So we'll keep going. So this makeup here is done by Amy Conway, who I found sort of through Suli Olio, a fantastic wardrobe person. And Amy came along. Originally I was going to get makeup. I was going to get the artists trained in a workshop, which we did for makeup, and they'd apply it themselves. But then I needed prosthetics and going to Broken Hill and there's enough stress. I didn't need to take any more on. So I decided that I'd pay Amy. She came along, and I negotiated with her to also do this incredible scarring on the back. It's so much better in my mind. Sometimes when you're making things, you have to let the vision go because of budget. You can't get exactly what's in your head onto the page or on the screen. In this case, it kind of exceeded my expectations. This pock-marked radiation burns. And you can also see that there's a lot of Vaseline in this shot, and a lot of painted state is bedded in real science, which is I like in Alien. I like people to explain things to me. If you listen to the conversations between Sigourney Weaver and Ian Holm, who plays the science officer, the science of the alien, the science of why it's on that planet, the chemical makeup of the atmosphere on that planet, it's all great stuff. And you can go and Google and research and see how factual it is. And a lot of it is very factual. So if you're building a world, you have to back up the science or come up with a theory. And one of the problems I discovered after 2 or 3 years of writing this script was that if you're going to go and sleep at night and you're in this lead-coated, plastic-coated building, radiation is going to bleed through. So how do you protect yourself? So I came up with this notion of stuff called potassium vas or KVAS, which is like a translucent paint, which was part of the discovery. And you would coat this all over your body to protect yourself from radiation. You could sleep at night without any makeup all over your body. So that's what the greasy consistency is about. Having a bit of a cough. And one of the opening scenes, it's dry. That's why it's dehydrated. I'm just having a bit of a laugh there because I remember going to Aldi and buying all those baby wipes. Originally the show was called A Fistful of Baby Wipes, and everyone hated that title. So eventually I came up with Painted State. But I still like the title of A Fistful of Baby Wipes. But if survey 20 people and only one person will like that title. And I went to Aldi and I bought this whole palette of baby wipes. And so the notion is that you have to clear the Vaseline off your face, the makeup off your face in under a minute. Otherwise it starts leaching and you're going to die. So this guy's waking up, and this is X. This is sort of our first introduction, and you don't see his face. You never really see my face, and that's completely intentional. And for a variety of reasons. Professionally, I just thought about it, and I thought, well, this negates the need for an A-list actor. I don't have to be known. I could be Joe Bloggs, and people say, well, as long as the guy's interesting, if he can act, then I'm going to watch him or her. So the makeup negates sex, or sexuality, gender, cultural background, age. Kind of neutralizes everything, and maybe even the ability to act. Because if you're a large actor on screen, acting on screen is much more, depending generally on the genre, it's not as big as theatre. Theatre, you have to do stuff gesturally, you have to hit the back row. But in film, you're supposed to be a lot smaller. But if you're a rubbish actor and you don't understand the difference, you could still be big and have makeup on, and people will go, "Oh, well, wow, they're amazing. They're so heightened." So that's what I liked about the makeup, in that not only did it give great permission to the actor to become this character, but it also started this debate about what lies beneath. Does the makeup create you, or does it reveal who you are underneath, or you're hiding behind something? All these things about the masks. It's a really psychological film dealing with masks, and the masks that humans wear, and how we survive without the rule of law. And that mask, does it peel away? And when this paint comes along, some people drives me crazy. Some people become more insular. Some have heightened powers. So it's just the whole question and debate of that is interesting. So we could go and have the discussion on screen about who we are, and we eliminated the need for name actors and someone to be of a certain age, so that, as an actor myself, I could play the lead. I could be the lead guy, because no one needs to know who I am, or what my cultural background is, or what my age is. I just need to get up there and be the character and have people open up that discussion. And one of the things I wanted to do, which it's certainly in Australia, people aren't ready for it, but a lot of people would say to me, "Oh, but Steve, it needs more action." And look, there's lots of violent action in this film, including a real fight, which we tried to do out at Broken Hill, but it never really. Josh Farrow, God bless him, he was trying to have a real fight with me, but he was holding back. He didn't want to hurt me, but that's why I scheduled that shot as the last shot of the day, as a real fight in the desert, with escalating violence. But we never really got there, and we were time poor. So, but once you put on clown makeup, people suddenly expect you to do action. Oh, let's throw someone through the wall. Well, no, that's not my approach at all. The characters and the needs of the characters and what they're going through, psychological, are much more important than throwing someone through a wall. That's always secondary. And it wasn't ever gratuitous. And people have read the script, I think, have thought, "Oh, this is just gratuitous violence. How can you depict people like this? How can you depict females like that? How can you depict anyone like that?" Well, to me, that's always been in people's heads. And so what I was trying to do was get to the needs of the people. And it's interesting, if you have Spacey and Robert Wright Penn on a show like House of Cards, people will willingly sit through politics for hours on end and discussion. Or even the latest season of The X-Files, there's not really that much action going on, because they're established, I guess. But just because you have people in clown makeup, you don't have to have action non-stop. And even if you look at The Walking Dead, as that series has proceeded, there's probably less action and less zombies. It's less about the zombies and about the people in the landscape. So that's what this is focused on, and that's what I'm trying to pitch. Moving right along, finding some paint. It's selling the paint here in the first minute. I did take that with yellow paint, but the green came up a lot better. Putting the wardrobe on. And okay, that photo there is actually my children. It is a bit of a cliche, but it does create a strong need. This is a revenge story, basically. Someone's hurt his kids, he's going to go out to hurt them. He doesn't give a shit about anything else. And that is me on the left 10 years ago. There's an old shot that 10 years ago. but that's why I covered my face on purpose, and my kids' faces, and my youngest. Well, he looks completely different. But it covered my face because people don't need to know who I am. They don't need to know who I was. They don't need to know my history. And, one of the bands I loved as a kid growing up, and they really informed this as well, subconsciously, was Kiss. And Kiss went for years without unmasking themselves, and eventually they did. But it was the tension that was created by not knowing what this person looked like. And maybe if you did find out, then you might be a little disappointed. So my idea is to always keep X, maybe until the last season, the last shot, behind a mask. Hopefully I'm still as good looking by then. Someone sent me a message. Okay, keep going. I was kind of half joking about that. Okay, so there we go, grabbing the cans and leaving. So that, we'll just pause that. Let's get back to this idea again. This is a short form, and I don't like saying it. Oh, it's Mad Max with clowns. That's the simplest thing that people can understand. That's the best way to pitch it, to get your foot in the door so that people don't stop the conversation and they go, oh, that's pretty good. And a lot of people I've worked with in Australia on a thing I did with Gaylan Hurd, didn't have spent much time with her, but a lot of the people who were in makeup, prosthetics, just love the idea of this. And so if I was to encapsulate the whole story, this is it. In the beginning came the war. To survive the war, we put on the paint. But the paint did something to us. And so a new war began. That's the idea. All right, well, that's vlogcast number 2. Make sure you download it. If you can't watch it because you're driving or running or doing cookery. And I will speak to you on vlogcast number 3. If you enjoyed this, then please like, subscribe, and share. This is Blazehackman, over and out.